Thomas, you might. All right, we're gonna rock and roll. All right, we're gonna call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, I'm gonna ask our clerk to read the roll.
Baylor. Connor. Here. Freeman. Here. Fusco. Holland. Aye. Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Here.
Amobian.
Here.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Fisher of Firestone Park Presbyterian Church. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Malik will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious and loving God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together at this meeting of the Akron City Council to discuss and decide about issues related to making our city a better place for all of us. For those of us who have come here tonight with personal burdens and challenges that feel overwhelming, give them peace and comfort so that they can effectively carry out the work of this meeting. May all who are here, whether they are presenting information or listening to what is being said or voting on issues, may you give them wisdom and discernment and courage as they carry out their tasks. When the way seems difficult, give all of us the spirit to celebrate our diversity, eyes to see the unity of what we have in common, and hearts to seek what is best for our community. Oh God, you have blessed us in many ways. Help all of us to share those blessings with others, that we may work together to make Akron a great city. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Here. Oh, aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
Minutes passed 12-0 with 1 abstention.
Before you, you have a copy of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We do have one item up for public hearing this evening. Our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, February 13th, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare home at 2017 Thurmont Road.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Alfred Bell, doing business as Kiddo Care LLC, is requesting permission to establish a Type A child daycare home at this location. The proposed daycare home would occupy the attached garage space of the 1,300 square foot brick ranch dwelling. Care would be provided for a maximum of 12 children, ranging in age from birth to 13 years. Services would be provided 24 hours, 7 days a week, with overnight stays. No additional changes are proposed for the interior or the exterior of the house. Rear yard outdoor play area is enclosed by 4 foot in height chain link fencing. The property contains a 2-car wide driveway in front of the attached garage. The petitioner has stated that drop-off and pickup will occur either within the driveway or on the cul-de-sac in front of the dwelling. Petitioner states they provide transportation for over half their clients. This Northwest Akron neighborhood property is properly maintained. The traffic engineer does not object to the proposed drop-off and pickup areas. Providing quality daycare services is beneficial to the entire city. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to conditions.
Okay, thank you so much. We're now going to open up our public hearing. If we have anyone here in the audience or online who wishes to speak in favor or against 2017 Thurmont Road, just going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I declare.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll open up those wishing to speak in favor of item number 1.
Good evening, everyone. Everyone.
And Apostle, just give your name for the record.
Okay, I'm Apostolette, and I just leave it at that. All the other stuff it is what it is. There's a song called Someone to Love, and it's by Mint Condition. And before I go with my comments this evening pertaining to this item, I want to say happy Valentine's Day to everyone in this room and those celebrating, because we all need someone to love, and I do love you genuinely. This item, I will just read this briefly before I just say that I am very much in support of this effort. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. This, when it was written, did not have women at the table. This, when it was written, did not have children in mind. This, when it was written, was a group of all white males in a room. And I want to make sure that when this agenda item is passed, that these people have everything they need to operate their daycare. I want to make sure that this is not a setup to traffic more babies. I want to make sure that this is not a setup to divide families. As the wealth transfer takes place in the United States of America, the wealth is for the posterity of the people. Should these people have a need, a lack, a concern, I want our government, because we the people must meet their need, and not feed into greed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of item number 1? Okay.
Hello again. I'm Alfred Bell. I was here earlier. The owner of Kiddo Care. Once again, I'm here to seek approval to get my daycare approved in that area on 2017 Thurmont. Other than that, I don't really have too much to say.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Bell. You're welcome. If there is no one else wishing to speak in favor or against, Mr. Bush, you want to speak? Okay, I'm going to have you stand, and then you can be sworn in at the podium, okay?
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak in favor of Mr. Bell and Kiddo Care. I actually went to school with his siblings, played sports with his siblings, worked with his mother at Acme for a few years. It's a great family. Always been a great family. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brooks. So at this time, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull a committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer? Aye. Connor? Aye. Baylor? Aye. Mosley.
Aye.
Report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for passage.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. The ward council person is in favor. We've heard the commission is in favor. There's 4 conditions that they've agreed to meet, and so we're recommending approval this evening.
Thank you so much. So, you have any comments? No? Good? Okay. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay. We're now going to move into old business. We'll start with planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, President Somerville. The next item being the, excuse me, the Merriman Valley Community Entertainment District. This has been, we've had several discussions in reference to committee, and I know that the administration, I know that the ward council person, Mr. Malik, has met with many of the businesses in the area as well as the administration, and so after much discussion, we're recommending approval this evening.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are there any comments at this time? Councilman Malik?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just want to take a minute to thank the administration and to thank everyone who participated in these discussions. The developers who put forward, this idea at first are helping us take a step towards implementing the Merriman Valley Master Plan that our City of Akron Planning Department, City of Cuyahoga Falls Planning Department spent so much time working on. And there's a lot of debate and discussion about development and conservation of land, but one thing that really came out of that everyone agreed on was that we need a redevelopment of existing spaces. And this is going to allow us to put at least 1 new restaurant and potentially a lot more down in the valley in a thoughtful and reasonable way. I just want to take a second and recognize that there's a positive step that came out of this process, and again, thank the administration for their part in it.
Okay. Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco?
File 4, and then time on the balance.
Time will be granted. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to continue time on item 1 and 2.
Okay. Time will be granted. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for passage this evening.
Do you have any further comments?
This is the ordinance regarding Tom Todd Ideas, who is putting on a summer camp for the children of Akron. And Mr. Harris was in our committee this morning and gave us some insight as to what the program's all about. And it's a very favorable program for the kids. And again, we are asking for passage this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay. That concludes our old business. We're now moving to new legislation, starting with budget and finance.
Item 0 is offered by Mayor Horrigan. Ordinance authorizing employee cost of living adjustments through calendar year 2023 to employees in the non-bargaining, management, and unclassified job classes in order to attract and retain qualified employees, while at the same time economically utilizing taxpayer dollars to provide vital quality services to the citizens of the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow the city to provide the cost of living adjustments for approximately 460 of our employees that are not in a bargaining unit, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman? Aye. Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 1, offered by Fusco, resolution approving the renewal application of Stephen and Janice Brown to have agricultural property on Diagonal Road to be included in an agricultural district pursuant to Revised Code Section 929.01.
Councilman Fusco,
For an advertised for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract or contracts for transportation planning services in order to carry out the intent and purpose of programs under the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2023, and in order to further the Akron metropolitan area transportation studies, goals, and objectives of maintaining a cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in the Akron metropolitan area and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Yes, thank you. The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is our continuation, basically, but a renewal in terms of our agreement with AMATS, and in the description of the legislation, it kind of tells the whole story, and they do a great job with it in terms of their goals and objectives of maintaining cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in the Akron metropolitan area. So it's not only us, it's several cities, and they work with all of them, and they've done a great job. So this is about $300,000, most of which is federal pass-through, but we request passage this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Connor? Aye. Freeman? Aye. Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 3, offered by Mayor Horrigan and council as a whole. Resolution congratulating Akron's own son and hometown hero, LeBron James, on his astounding and historic accomplishment in becoming the NBA's all-time leading scorer, expressing appreciation for his continued significant civic and charitable commitment to the Akron community, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Thank you. The committee's report was favorable, and we're asking for a suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, LeBron James, sure many of you heard of him, St. Vincent St. Mary graduate, 2003, but he has set the NBA scoring record with 38,390 and counting. So we are certainly proud of him from Akron, Ohio, and this record has been, it was 40 years ago, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar set it, but LeBron broke it, and again, just proud of his accomplishments on the court as well as off the court.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Councilman Fusco?
I'm not sure if I heard that correctly. What high school did he go to?
It's high atop a hill in Akron, St. Vincent St. Mary.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So the committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Aye. Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
I was a little slow. Could we have this as mayor and council as a whole?
It is.
Yep. Yep.
It is?
Yep. It came in as mayor and council as a whole, so
Thank
we're
you.
good.
I didn't hear that.
Okay.
And Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 4 is offered by Mayor Horrigan and Councilwoman Amobian. Resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Linda Brown to the City of Akron Commission on Aging for a 3-year term and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Amobian,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Ms. Brown was here at the afternoon, and it's obvious that she has been serving this community in so many different capacities, as well as serving on the committee of the Aging Commission, and just been doing all kinds of work in Ward 4 and all over the city, and Sarah's house and different places. And we certainly recommend her wholeheartedly for this assignment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Aye. Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Those who are wishing to speak before this body, I'm going to ask that you please stand so that you may be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. I declare. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Just going to ask when you hear your name, please approach the podium, and you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. We're going to start with Fran Wilson.
Hello, my name is Fran Wilson. Today I just wanted to come up here real quick and say it seems that every single step of the way to get issue 10 to come a reality in the city of Akron, and every step after its passage has been filled with conflict, internal drama in council, and I'm just asking, we need young people on this board. A lot of young people helped make issue 10 a reality. A lot of young people are out in the streets working very hard to make those neighborhood connections that keep us safe. And I truly, truly ask that if we want to build a future, a solid future for young people, then young people need to be on these boards and commissions. I know Summer Hall has been doing a lot of that work, getting younger folks on different boards and commissions. I'm confused why this is a different situation. We need younger people. I went through the applications today, the rejected applications. There's a lot of young people that I know, that I recognize, that check multiple boxes on the applications that they filled out. So if we can reconsider to put a couple more people under 30 in there, that would be great as well. Thank you.
Fran, thank you so much. Ms. Judy Hill.
Good evening. Good evening. I am here as well in regards to the resolution approving and confirming the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board. Thank you, Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I have to say that today I'm here with a heavy heart. I recently returned from vacation to learn that the selection committee presented names for you to examine, to approve for the new Citizens Police Oversight Board. Initially, I wanted to come and say congratulations for taking the time and selecting individuals, a cross-section of our community as best you could, for the first board. The petition stated members shall be representative of our diverse community within the city of Akron on the basis of race, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, religion, disability, ethnic age, and socioeconomic status, as well as geographic region. In making appointments, council shall endeavor to include the following: an attorney with criminal justice and/or civil rights experience, members between the ages of 18 to 35, a member from the faith-based community, a member with professional background in law enforcement. And I will say that looking over the names, you have a former FBI individual, former police officer, social workers, mental health professionals, and an attorney. The age range of the individuals that were recommended is 27 to 75. I will tell you the last Beacon Journal article I read saddened me again because it alleged that some council members of this esteemed body received and passed out rumors about a candidate without knowing the facts. This esteemed body that I have a lot of respect for. Some of you have expressed strong opposition to one of the candidates, a candidate who is young, a candidate who served on the Racial Equity and Social Justice Task Force, a candidate who has civil rights background, a candidate who has a diverse view and approach for a city that claims to be welcoming. And I'm gonna say that again. For a city that claims to be welcoming, I was so disheartened to read that we actually want to pull one person and attack them because they don't represent what somebody thinks is what should be. As a part of the fabric of this community, I would hope that this body will keep the main thing the main thing. I live by that. I don't agree with everything that happens, and people don't agree with everything I say. But the pettiness and the idea of not moving this initiative forward, it bothers me. Let's honor the people that we serve and honor the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hill. And I'm just going to ask if we can refrain from clapping. Thank you. Is James Quinn here with us?
Madam President, he actually just joined online, so I'll need to swear him in.
Okay.
Can you please raise your right hand? James Quinn, can you hear us? Do you want to?
James, can you hear us?
Hi.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear?
Yeah, can you see me?
Yes. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
Yeah, can you see me?
Yes, can see you.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Sorry, my sound wasn't working.
Okay, no problem. So we're just going to swear you in before you bring forth your comments, okay?
Okay, that works.
Okay. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, James, you can begin with your comments.
Okay, so, hi, my name is James Quinn. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Today, I really wanted to talk to you about the treatment of Immakai Okolo, the lawyer of Akron, Ohio. The comments that were passed around by city council people, which, well, we weren't given a name. I think we can guess who it is, and their name rhymes with Moscow. It seems very immature and childish from a city council board to be passing around comments like that. And honestly, frankly kind of worrying, especially for somebody who wants to be running for a city council again, to be passing around comments like that. It's comments that are childish and it frankly detract from both city council and just the entire process. We need young people on the board. Immakai is of the young age that is important and Makai lived in Akron their entire life. They went to Firestone High School, went to Akron Public Schools, which is incredibly important for people who are serving on the board to have been in Akron their entire life. They are a lawyer. They're very well equipped to deal with the cases that would be coming across the Police Accountability Board. So it seems like that the only reasons that the people could have, that the people who are against their seat on the board are personal reasons, deeply personal reasons, in fact. It asks the questions of who is actually making the decisions if these are the questions that are being passed around. I don't really have much more to add. I yield the rest of my time.
James, thank you so much for sharing. I think the next name is Gabe, and I apologize if I'm not saying it right. It's a little hard to read.
Real short, had to adjust that real quick. Okay, so in the wake of what I think is an incredibly important event, it did not happen in Akron, but I think it has a lot of similarities to a lot of things that have happened in Akron recently. The murder of Tyree Nichols over in Memphis should remind all of you of a lot of deaths of Akron residents that have happened recently as the result of vehicular and foot chases by the Akron Police Department. Some of these names include Jalen Walker, Muhammad Asaifan, Arlo Mosley, Kira Bradley. These are just a couple of the people that have died as a result of vehicular and foot chases by the Akron Police Department, very similar to what happened to Tyree Nichols that caused a nationwide uproar. I would ask that all of you here on council, especially the people who deem yourselves qualified to be running for mayor, to please work on introducing legislation to restrict and prohibit vehicular and foot chases by the Akron Police Department. The other thing that I wanted to bring up really quickly, because this is personally important to me, is the fact that a couple meetings ago, council had voted on funding a pilot right to counsel program, which I think is incredibly important and admirable. However, this program did not pass with the recommended amount of funding, which I think kind of makes this program bound to fail. I would ask that those of you on council who think that tenant issues are important to the residents of Akron, please push for this program to be funded properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. David Garan.
Good evening. Good evening. So the last week I spoke, and I misspoke, about when you invite someone to give a presentation, please put that on the agenda, not the minutes, but I mean, it should be on the minutes too. But it should be on the agenda so we know too what's going to be going on. And again, those presentations should be brought before all of council, where most people come to the presentations and to council meetings. I brought up also last week that the mayor had 6 officers at St. Sebastian's, and either those people were on overtime, they were taken away from their regular duties, or they are part of the 8 officers that executed Jalen Walker. This body, in the charter, this one's in the charter, okay? You guys can investigate. You need to investigate this misuse of public funds for the personal use of the mayor. These officers left the same time the mayor did. They were there for his own protection, not of the citizens, not of the council members that were there, not of the county council member. They were there. They were there for the personal use of the mayor, which is not allowed. And going back to the chief of police, I found that the chief of police had the chutzpah back in 2004 to actually sue his employer, the chief of police in Corpus Christi, for, get this, for racial discrimination. I remind you, he's a white man, and he claimed racial discrimination. He lost in the appeals court. If you'd like to have a copy, you can Google it under Stephen Mallet. It's dated, it's in 2004. This person who has the chutzpah to do that, as a white man who has privilege, a white male that has a chutzpah, he should not be the chief of police. It kind of explains his own victimization, and look at police who did execute Jalen Walker to protect those officers. Those officers ought to be fired. They ought to be prosecuted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham, for sharing. Ken Brooks, did you want to speak during public comment?
Good evening. I would like to, good evening. Once again, I'd like to speak about basically the overstep of some of the members of City Council. First of all, they didn't want this passed. Some people kind of have now changed their stances on how they felt about issue 10 or how they feel about it. But for people to continue to try to step in front of people's civic engagement and civic duty, I mean, I just really hope that the public in general, the city of Akron is taking note of the different ways in which people react and vote, and the different comments and the body language and everything that goes on in this horseshoe every week, because it is almost election time. And some of these same people who were denied applications will, I believe, choose to run in order to get rid of this old guard. Many of you have been in this horseshoe for double digits of years and are not making very new or informed decisions. And you don't deserve to have the say over the community anymore if you refuse to listen to them, if you refuse to actually cater to the community who has put you in these positions. I mean, then some of you were not necessarily put in positions by community, and that is duly noted as well. So that's my time.
Thank you, Mr. Ken Brooks, for sharing. Is Andrew Myers here with us?
Good evening, all of you guys. I appreciate you guys for letting me speak. Tonight, I just want to speak from a personal perspective of issue 10, from somebody who was out here speaking from different perspectives, from people in a higher age bracket than me, my age, a little bit younger. It's different to talk to the younger groups these days between phones and social media, but I even got enough of a response from them to understand that we got this to be able to get the community to feel like we had a voice or a level of power, to try to get some type of control to where we could stop having police themselves. So I feel like, all in all, in due respect, there are some people that are very well suited for this position, and I've seen some things, as Ms. Judy had pointed out a little bit ago, in Akron Beacon Journal that really stood out to me about a specific somebody. And this person I know personally, and I know that they have a very sound mind, very intellectual thoughts, and that would be somebody that you guys should definitely reconsider as putting on that board. I feel like moving forward, Akron does have a very good, strong ability to show that we have a diverse and collective unit, but we cannot come together if we're always at a battle, you know. So hopefully moving forward that can be seen. And before I sit down, I want to just make sure that you guys know that, you know, slander can go a long way. You know, it could ruin somebody's image or somebody else's perception. Perception is reality. So just moving forward, just kind of like do some more research before you start trying to spread rumors about people and what they have. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Myers, for sharing. That actually concludes our public comment period. Just maintain order for 1 second, and we'll have the clerk look into it, okay?
Yeah, I gave it last week. I came back there and gave it.
Apostolate, you can approach the podium.
Once again, I'm Apostolate, and there's no disrespect to you, Council President, at all. For I hear of showers of blessing, thou art scattering full and free, showers of the thirsty land refreshing. Let some drops fall down in this room on everyone, including me. Let brotherly and sisterly love continue. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Remember them that are in bonds as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity, as being yourselves also in the body. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee, so that we may boldly say, the Lord and Lady are my helper, and I will not fear what any one shall do unto me. On my form that I filled out on last week, I had put that I would like to talk about leadership this evening. Leadership. I know some people don't believe that leaders are people, but leaders are people, too. I've heard the conversation about the mayor having police surrounding the mayor, but we as leaders, preachers, politicians, and I'm a political preacher, we give our lives for this. We should have 24-hour security, because someone given at the wrong time will just, I just have a concern with people keeping up with when I go to the bathroom, what church I go to, where I go at all times. Because if we focus on what we should be focusing on, then we would be working together to build up the leader and not tear the leader down. I say that, I spoke with you, and my time is running out, but Council President, I've watched the attack on you when I come down here, and if you were a white or if you were a male, you would not get that attack. And I say that, and I mean that, because it's time for that to stop and for people to keep their mouths off of you. I've been for multiple weeks trying to raise money for different people. That's what we're supposed to be doing. I need $2,000 now because of someone who's in a crisis. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Not coming down sabotaging the character of a person because of the color of their skin or because they're a female. Let's work on leadership.
Apostolate, thank you. Thank you. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We're now going to move to our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
145.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
45 of the 20.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to everyone who came out and spoke this evening. I did just want to take a second. I saw in the Beacon Journal as I was coming down here that our superintendent, Christine Fowler-Mack, is going to be leaving her position and resigning. I think that board meeting may be going on even as we speak. I just want to take a second to thank her for her service over these last, I think, about year and a half. And it has not been an easy time to run a public school system, especially with COVID, with the safety issues that we have, with a lot of turbulence, and appreciate the way in which she has engaged in the service. And then also just want to thank, there's a lot going on in our country and our world, and we saw in East Palestine the train derailment and chemical spill, And really was wonderful to see that our fire department and Cuyahoga Falls Fire Department was able to go out and help in the response to that disaster, that we're just beginning to know what the impact is going to be on the environment, on the people. And that also made me think of the point that Councilman Neal brought up earlier today, which is this earthquake in Turkey. And, you know, there are disasters in our country that are terrible, but when you think that an earthquake happened at the Turkish-Syria border, which for the last decade has been an active war zone, even right now, where hundreds of thousands of refugees are, this is one of the worst places an earthquake could have happened, and more than 30,000 people have died, and it could be many, many more than that, and that number is just incomprehensible. And so, you know, I know we're dealing with all of these issues that we discussed here today with CARE, but just trying to give some thoughts to the incredible amount of suffering going on over there.
Thank you, Councilman Malik. Is there anything else coming before council? We do want to mention that there will be no meeting next Monday because of President's Day. So if there's nothing else coming before this body, do we have a motion for adjournment? Councilman Mobley, do you have a comment?
I want to take a few minutes just to address some of the things that have been alluded to tonight, as well as in the Beacon Journal. First of all, I have said this and I will say it again. Thank you, Madam President, for appointing me to this committee to select the individuals to serve on the Oversight Board. And I certainly want to again reiterate the fact that we had 112 citizens who put themselves forward for us to consider them. And I think we did a fine job of interviewing the candidates that we did and coming up with a slate. Now, I know the plan is for us to vote on this at the end of this month. And I don't know where we are in terms of, since we don't have a meeting next week, I just want to comment on some things that I've heard. First of all, I too agree that the slate that we have put forth is the best of the best that we interviewed. And all of the things that were listed tonight, as well as during the interviews, to reflect the kind of city we are in terms of the diversity that we represent and what we were trying to, and I think Mr. Angelo referred to them as aspirational goals. And I think they were very good aspirational goals. And I think we achieved that. Now, we have singled one person out, but I just want to take a few minutes just to talk about this individual. First of all, when I heard about the comments that were made, I want to make sure that people know that Amokai Okolo is not my relative. He's not my child, he's not my niece, nephew, he's no relative of mine. But as I stated in the paper, and I'll state again tonight, I would love to have had a child like Amokai Okolo, or even his brother. You know, the mother has done a fine job in raising two young men. One is an engineer and one is a lawyer. And I have known these kids and I've watched them grow up. And I want to make it clear, Amokai Okolo could go anywhere in the world to work. He graduated from our public school system. He went away to college, came back here, went to the University of Akron, attended our law school, graduated, I'm sure, with honors, did extremely well, works at one of the third largest law firms, I believe, in the world. And Amokai could go anywhere in the world and do extremely well. But he came back to our community. He is our homegrown son. And he came back to serve. And he's made himself available to serve. And all the things I've heard about him, I just want to make sure that we talk about all the good about this young man, because we put him forth as a committee. He was on the original slate. Unfortunately, he identified his ward as Ward 5. When further investigation was done, we found out that he was in Ward 3. Madam President said she would take him as her representative. So he was on both slates. It was never a point where he was not even included. We recommended him to be on the committee to represent that age range of 27 to 35 or 18 to 35, whatever that range is, because he fits into that range. He also is a young black man. He represents the group of young men that are being killed in all of these violent episodes around the country by the police. He has come to this meeting, he has volunteered to represent folks who were facing evictions. I mean, that's the kind of young man he is. He has worked on the Social Justice Committee and has done a fine job. I mean, like I said, he could go anywhere. We keep saying that we want to bring our young people back to the city of Akron to live, to give, to serve, and hopefully to find a place to work. But we want to deny him a seat on this committee. At first, it was just two technicalities you're using. The fact that he misrepresented his ward, as another representative did. He put the wrong ward down. We corrected it and moved on. The second one is that he didn't change his address from his mother's house when he moved back. He's been back in Akron a few months. He moved from Cleveland back to Akron. That's where he grew up, and that's the address he's used. So I am not sure what the issues are. All I can tell you is that Amokai Okolo would be an excellent representative on this committee. And I believe if this city, Akron, Ohio, if we're ready to include young black men at the table to help resolve some of these issues, Amokai Okolo should be on this committee, without question. And as I said, he could go anywhere and do almost anything he wants to do. But he came back to his home to give, and that is what he has been doing. And I really would hope that we would all search our souls and think about this as we move forward to make a decision about this committee. I am not sure where we go from here, Madam President, but I know his name is still on the slate, and we only have another meeting so that we can vote. And I appreciate your support because, you know, Madam President has been extremely supportive of Amokai on this committee and on this committee. And as I said, she decided to take him as her representative for her ward. So I hope that we can think through this and come up with a solution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. It's a standard procedure for this council. Whenever we appoint folks, oftentimes, those of you who have sat in on appointments to reappoint or to appoint someone to a vacancy on city council, this is a practice. Whenever there's other restrictions, if you will, in terms of city council appointments and such, we always look at two things: residency and voting record. Me personally, I was not on that committee, but I'd heard that was part of the concern out there. But this is a standard operating procedure for this council to go out and check those off, because you want to make sure the residency, et cetera, and a good place to do that is the Board of Elections, which also includes the voting record as well. So that's a standard operating procedure. You know, and as mentioned before, I think we all want to see this become successful. 110, 120 people had, you know, applied. Many of us weren't on that committee. I know that there was some people who were under the age of 40 who applied as well, and for whatever reasons were not included. I can't answer that, but I'm just grateful we have some time to look it over and to read over the resumes. I'm also curious as to why, and just to explain what the next steps are. The step is basically this, which I still find interesting, is that, you know, the mayor, his appointments only need 7 votes. And for whatever reason, it was chosen that council needs 9 votes, which if we would have stuck with our rules, you know, and I don't know exactly, it probably would have been easier, I would guess, to appoint the one that everyone seems to be bringing up, if those votes would be here. But it just seemed strange to me why there would be that 9-vote, you know, limit in our charter now. Why that exists, I don't know. I'm sure the architects of the change or the charter amendment would know that, but it just seemed odd to me. But thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Malik, and then I'm going to go to Councilwoman Amobian. Will you defer to her? Thank you. Councilwoman Amobian?
I just want to say that I've served on this council, I think this is my 14th year, 13th or 14th. And of all the people that I have recommended to fill seats on commissions or committees, I personally have never looked at their voting address, record, or anything. I've never looked at their social media. I never looked at any of those things. I have taken the word of the staff that's recommended them, and many people, because, you know, when you're in public service, you get to know a lot of people. So many of them I know, just from being in associations and meetings and places, but I have never personally looked at those documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Malik?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I did just want to bring up one point after my colleague spoke so eloquently about Mr. Colo. This has been a long process to get to issue 10. We have a long ways to go. I disagree with one of the points made by my friend during public comment, that it has been messy and difficult at every stage. I think it has gone more smoothly than it could have in a lot of ways, but I am disappointed at some of the contentiousness and frustration and just negativity that has been around this whole issue. These are incredibly difficult, painful discussions for our entire community. The reality is that this board is an advisory board. It is not levying any judgments. It is not levying any punishment. The people who are sitting on this board are not sitting in judgment of anyone. They are offering perspectives. And in this country, in this moment, we should want to have a board that includes people that have views that might make us uncomfortable. There are people, I'm sure, there should be people on the board who have views that make me uncomfortable. And I don't agree with everything that Mr. Colo has ever posted, but I just want to make that point, that he is someone who is exceptionally qualified. He has been trained at some amazing schools like Firestone High School and the University of Akron Law School, where he won award after award after award after award for mock trial. He is an associate at one of the preeminent law firms in the world, and he wants to help. And not only that, he has spent a lot of his time as an activist on the ground, working with groups that make some of us uncomfortable, but that help make this into law over many of our objections. That is exactly the kind of voice that should be part of this, as one voice among many, alongside a law enforcement voice, alongside other voices. We didn't have this discussion in public safety today, so we're having it now. We're not going to have another discussion until we vote. But these are the voices that should be a part of this.
Thank you, Councilman Malik. Go ahead.
There was one other point I forgot and I do want to address. It's kind of related. I was one of the petitioners behind issue 10, that's not a secret. And the members who are approved by council require a supermajority of 9 votes because there is a need for consensus. Too often we vote on things and it's 7-6 or 8-5 if I did the math right. But it's important that we have members who everyone or a substantial majority feels comfortable with. And it may be that there is a specific person on that list who 9 people on council do not feel comfortable with. And I may disagree with that, but I think it is important for the sake of the whole community that we have people that we can all come together around. But that works both ways. We should push ourselves to be open-minded when it comes to this. We should also try to find consensus and recognize that that will mean the far extremes don't have a voice. So it is a balance, and that is part of why that was determined.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate what's been shared. I appreciate my colleague explaining the 9 votes. It's because we know people see us vote down here all the time. They can almost count who's going to vote what way every time. But I do want to say, just because someone doesn't vote doesn't mean that they don't take an interest. The majority of the residents in the city of Akron aren't a part of either party. But yet, if you vote in the primary, then you're associated with that party. So sometimes by them not voting, they're voting. And a lot of times the reason why they don't get engaged in our process is because they see this and they get disheartened, disenfranchised, and they don't want anything to do with it. And so I want to go back to, that's why it's critical. We've been talking about, and I know you guys hate me saying this, but when you talk about equity, you have to have metrics that show why you make decisions that you make, so that those that come behind us don't have to reinvent the wheel, and so that those who have questions, because I don't know about you all, but I've gotten calls from people who were very qualified. They didn't get a call, they didn't get a rejection letter, nothing. They were like, well, how did they come about making decisions? It would help us share with our constituents how these decisions were made. But I just want to stand with my colleagues in support of Amokai. No question, no question. And I have to wonder if he intimidates some of you. I honestly have to ask that. But see, without metrics by which to say how decisions were made, I'm left to assume that. But I feel very strongly about my assumptions because I know the history down here. I know the history down here. And so I just wanted to say that just because someone doesn't vote doesn't mean that they don't take an interest in the process. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of the process. It was long and a lot of good interviews, a lot of great people that we interviewed. And originally, I supported Amokai, and he was our Ward 5 candidate. Okay, and then I got some calls and text messages from a colleague that we were interviewing another individual because there was a mix-up in regards to Amokai not living in Ward 5, but living in Ward 3. So we made time to interview another candidate on a Friday night, and I still stand here, and I was led to believe that we were interviewing a candidate to replace Amokai because of the mix-up. And the candidate that I really liked and wanted to push forward was a Ward 3 representative. And that Friday night when we did interview that candidate from Ward 5, we were in a pretty good discussion downstairs, going back and forth, and we left that night thinking, at least I did, I don't want to speak for anyone else, thinking that we would continue that discussion over the weekend. And then Monday, legislation came in with those appointments, selection of those candidates, And that's where I believe the process failed me over that weekend and into that Monday. So there's a lot of confusion there, if you want to call it confusion or not. But I just want to say I originally supported Amokai, and then there was all that mix-up going on, and I was led to believe that we were replacing him. And then, like I said, I've already said it, and I'll say it again, that the legislation came in that Monday, and I wasn't part of that final process. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments at this time?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, just to answer, you know, many of us have been on the screening committees for the ward council person or an at-large person who's replaced, and everyone that I've been on, we do collect that data, that is the voting record and the residency, because we have to find out if they're even Akron residents. And the thing of it is that the administration, I know they check out the residency as well. We have to do that because sometimes we have folks that may not be from our town, but they're engaged, which is not a bad thing either. The other thing that is kind of fascinating, thank you for answering that about the consensus, but my next question then is why does the mayor only need 7? And then the council appointments need 9. Like I said, it's just kind of confusing to me how that all came about.
Okay. Yeah, very briefly, and then I'm going to make a comment.
Yeah, I do think the thought process was that for everything, mayoral appointments have a majority, and since most of the members are being appointed by council with the supermajority, there was some deference to that existing process with the mayor for a portion of them. That's my understanding. Whether someone thinks that's good or not is another matter, but that's my understanding.
Okay. I'm going to defer first to Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. Just really brief. Of course, I would have accepted Amokai for Ward 5, no question. But when I got the call that he was no longer in 5, he was in 3, I was asked, is there anyone else you would want us to interview? So I looked at the list, and I saw someone that I thought would be well represented for a good representation for Ward 5, and so that was the person. Matter of fact, I think I offered up 2 people, and they interviewed, and I was okay with the person that was chosen. But I got a call, just like many of us got a call about the person in our ward that was going to be offered up. At least I think that's what happened. And so if the Ward 3 council person said they wanted this person to be their person, I'm just trying to understand what's the problem. If that's who she picks and that's who she wants, what's the problem? I don't understand that. Of course he was supposed to be in my ward and he wasn't. We know the lines have all been redrawn. There's some people right now who think they're in Ward 5, but they're in Ward 1. And I'm getting those calls now. But again, the Ward 3 representative has said this is her person. And I just don't understand, when we have legislation that comes through this body and something is going on in our ward, we always take the lead of that ward person. And we follow their lead because it is their ward. So I don't understand why we're not following that lead right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I'm going to defer first to Councilwoman Holland, then I'll bring forth my comments.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I was resolved that I was just going to sit and listen. And I am so grateful for all of the insightful comments. This was actually the conversation I was hoping to have this afternoon. In 2 weeks, we'll vote on this. That's how the schedule plays out. And it is unimaginable to me that we would vote without having a conversation. This is exactly what should happen. Now, based on my background, when we are looking at a problem and we are looking at a statute, the first thing we do is to read the statute. That's the first thing we do. You don't have to be a lawyer, and I've said this a million times, you've all heard me say it, and we've all laughed about it. You don't have to be a lawyer to serve on city council, but sometimes it comes in handy. So what we have in issue 10 is not a requirement that each ward have a representative on the Citizens Oversight Board. In fact, that's impossible, or we would be playing from the very first day a game, in a sense, of musical chairs. There are 9 positions. There are 10 wards. I feel like this is an important thing to sort of lay out here. So what we do have, and the only thing that we have in issue 10, and I love to read this stuff, and I know some of you do too. What we do have is one simple idea around this idea of ward representation, and it is a prohibition that no ward have more than 2 individuals representing it. So I'm going to respectfully submit that we toss this out, that this part of the analysis doesn't really belong here, that we are never going to get to the place where we have each ward represented. We mathematically can't. This is in the simple text of issue 10. I think that this is an important thing to keep in mind. And the other thing that I would like to just respectfully submit is that this shouldn't be our last conversation either before we vote. What we're talking about here is history in the making. This is one of the most important things that will ever happen in the city of Akron. The people who are in this room, those who will vote, those who have been here week in and week out for as long as I can remember, they deserve an opportunity to see and hear the thoughts and the feelings. And the only other thing I have to say, again, kind of, rests on what I've been doing. Before I was one of the people whose background and residence was checked, and it should have been, by the way. I represent Ward 1. When I was up for consideration to take the late Rich Sorsky's place, the very first thing y'all should have checked was to make sure that I lived in Ward 1. That was absolutely essential. Missing here, right? Missing in the issue 10 conversation, but essential in terms of determining whether I was qualified. So one final thought, this goes back to my background before I got here. The Citizens Oversight Board, as I've read this ordinance, as I've read the charter amendment, and as I understand it, is not meant to be a jury. It's not meant to be a jury. What it is meant to be is a cross-section of who we are as a city. And if we don't have all the ideas, even the ones we don't agree with, maybe especially the ones we don't agree with, at that table, we've missed the mark. We've missed the mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I do just want to mention again, and I said this a few weeks ago, I want to thank the council members who participated in the selection process. Again, we had a lot of really good applicants, and I do believe, and I stand with every single name that was brought forth, and especially Imokai. When there was a mix-up in terms of what ward he lived in, which literally right across the street is 5, it was a no-brainer for me to say that I would be more than happy to have Imokai represent Ward 3 because his resume was unmatched. We are talking about a young, black attorney. He has been connected with the very organization that helped to make sure that issue 10 was passed. I mean, the fact that I don't even believe that he has free time, that he runs a whole pro bono operation helping people through evictions, there was nothing to think about. The one thing that I will say, because I think it needs to be said, because there were issues with his social media, some things that he had put on his social media. But there's one thing that all of us have to understand, and I don't understand this. Why? Yes, I am black, but I am not a black male. And the things that he shared on his social media page were things that, one, out of fear, frustration, and anger. We got a real issue. We got a real problem in Akron and across the country. And that's why we're putting the Citizens Review Board together. What concerns me the most, and what I don't see and don't understand, how we move forward and we see the board and we don't have a young black male like Imokai sitting around that table. That's the reason why we're doing this. How can we leave out the very population that is most impacted? And so that's why I stand by Imokai, and I am more than happy to have him represent Ward 3. Are there any other comments at this time? Well, if we have a motion to adjourn, if there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.